Hi everyone, it's Lori and welcome to the channel. Today I'm sharing my 3 must-use Lightroom tools that I use with almost every single image. Let's get started with the first one. Okay, so we're going to jump right into number 1 must-do edit is to review your histogram to see if you have room on the left side, which is your darks, or your bright side, your whites and highlights, to open them up. Now, this does not work in every image, but I would say at least about 90% of the time with a standard color image, you want to assess if you have room to open those up. Here's what I mean. On our whites right here, you can see the whites, there's not a lot, it's not all the way over to the right. So what that's telling me is I have some room to move the histogram over. Now, this image was shot in RAW, so I've got all that data. What this does is it gives me a much more balanced histogram. It also brightens my image in a very natural, beautiful way. I could have come in and just moved the exposure, but that's not what I want to do. You can see that's moving everything over. What I want to do is just come in and assess my histogram. I've got some room on the whites, and I'm going to slide those over. Now I'm also going to check my blacks and shadows. And in this example, I am going to open up the shadows, which is just kind of moving those over a little bit. That's going to open up those darker areas. So that is my number 1. Always review your histogram and then modify your whites, shadows, highlights as appropriate, or even your blacks. Okay, so number 2 is actually one that you may not think of as an editing tool, but it is, and that is cropping your image. So cropping your image allows you, now you don't have to crop every image, but it does allow you to determine where you want your focus to be, where you want to take the viewer's eye. Now for this example, this image, I shot it straight on. So naturally, I want this to be in the center. Now, I like some of this foliage over, so I could bring the center of the image over to maybe more of the rule of thirds, but I just don't have enough room to do that. So in this case, I am going to come over and balance this image all the way straight on in the center. So cropping your image really allows you to define how you want the image to look, where you want the image to, what the leading lines need to be, and how you want to express the image. Let's look at another example. So this would be an example where the image, if I go to the crop tool, you can see it's not on really the rule of thirds on the grid. It's not in the center. I need to really think about it. I also could think about if I want to flip the image. So I'm actually going to rotate and flip this one so that it's leaning that way. Now what I can do is actually move the crop, and I have a couple ways I can move it. I can move it over, and that gets kind of the center of the flower right there on the rule of thirds, but I have all this negative space that I don't need. So what I'm going to do instead is bring the image over and crop that unnecessary information. Have the image coming out of this corner and over into the center so that I still have the leading lines and I have some space on either side of the image. So that's how I would crop that one. Thinking about your crop is really important to how your image finishes up. So this would be an example where I have to decide what I want to do with the image. I have some distracting elements. I'm going to slide that crop over just a little bit. I do think I want to keep this flower on the rule of thirds, and I love this negative space. So I'm just going to bring that crop over just a little bit to get the center of my flower right there in the rule of thirds, but I still want some space on either side. Now, if I find this area down in the left corner distracting, I can always use the heal or remove tool to clean that up. So my number 2 edit is always to do the crop. Number 1 was working through your histogram. Okay, so my third and final must-do edit tool is actually using the tone curve. So the tone curve, I think, is one of the least used, and it should be the most used tools. So the tone curve is actually a reflection of your histogram. So the bottom are your darks. So I can come in and darken the dark areas of the image. I can also come in and brighten the bright areas. What it allows you to do, it also has this area that's considered the midtones. So we could come in and lower the midtones, which gives our image a really unique look, or we could bump those up. Let me show you that again. You can see how that brightens, or we can lower it and it gives it really that moody look. The tone curve is just an amazing tool for you to make those fine adjustments to your image. Now, I like to use this gray option. If you're new to the tone curve, you can also select this swirl right here, and this is going to give you the ability to move where you want the changes to be made. Now, you can also impact colors on the tone curve. So let's go over to the green, because we know we have green in this image. So we could actually enhance. You can see that's bringing the green way up. We could also add some magenta or pink tones to our image. Same thing if we came over to blue. You could see we could add a little bit of blue tones or add some warmth. So tone curve is a nice way to make some customized adjustments in your images. Now I'm going to reset, right click, reset all channels. I'm going to go back to the grid that I prefer, which is right here, this gray circle. And for this image, I'm going to actually go to that midtone area and I'm going to lower it just a little bit for some drama. So tone curve is just an amazing tool where you can make some adjustments to your image. You can also refine the saturation of that right there. It's just giving that extra final touch. So 3 really quick but impactful tools when editing. Always crop your image, adjust your exposure based on your whites, shadows, highlights, and blacks. And third, play around with the tone curve. It can really give your image a final look and final detail that you may be looking for. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.